Here's one of the latest interviews from Rock and Metal Revival. If you want to hear the whole show, go to rmrshow.com. From Anthrax, there is Fight 'Em Till You Can't on Rock and Metal Revival. And Jerry, one of my favorite bands all time is Anthrax, and I just love. I still listen to worship music today. I mean, like on a weekly basis. And we are lucky enough today to have on the show with us Scott Ian from Anthrax. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Great. You've got this brand new book out, I'm the Man, the story of the guy from Anthrax. And what a great title. And and I just want to say, it was refreshing to read a rock and roll autobiography that didn't slam people constantly.
Really. That's not the kind of book I would write. It's just not something that would have been interesting to me. I certainly have a lot of stories that probably people wouldn't be happy with, obviously, but that's just not who I am as a person. Either that or, I just got to wait till I retire to write that book. But but that really, it's not my story. And a lot of that kind of information for me is, I feel like, look, if I have stories about other people that would piss them off or make them upset, those really aren't my stories, and who am I to out those stories, let's say. I wasn't writing some kind of an expose about heavy metal, and this is a story about me. If anything, I'm talking about myself and revealing things about myself that, I think people will either be surprised or kind of like, wow, he's being really honest about things. And because for me, that was the most interesting thing, was obviously I'm writing my story. I'm being selfish. It's all about me.
Exactly. That's very cool. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the book is we've grown up in about the same time frame, and some of your influences of Kiss, Sabbath, and Maiden, and Motorhead, and Priest are all big bands in my life. But when you added in that you had a soft spot for disco, that you know what? That made me really appreciate you are the man.
Thank you.
Because Red's here in his leisure suit.
Yeah. Well, when Kiss did the disco tone, I was like, oh my. Am I the only guy that likes this? But
actually, I didn't like that.
Oh, hell no. I didn't either.
Yeah. That was not for me. But I'm talking about actual disco, like real actual disco, not when disco became big and then everyone had to have a disco song. I wasn't so much into that.
So I know that one of the things that I've really appreciated about Anthrax over the years was you guys were one of the leaders in thrash metal, but back when you in '91 when you got together with Public Enemy and you did Bring the Noise, you were one of the first metal bands to bring rap into metal. I mean, you guys were a leader in that. I mean, do you look back on that and go, hey, we kind of started this?
No, I never looked at it that way, because we didn't start it. Rick Rubin started it. He was the first guy to sample rock guitars on rap records, way in the early '80s. That's what opened my mind to the idea that the two could even go together. Before I heard him doing that, I was never thinking about crossing over between rock or metal and rap. It was for me, Rick Rubin is the one who started it. So, for us, it was just a case of, we were all fans of rap music. Charlie, Frankie, and I, we grew up in Queens and the Bronx, and we got into that stuff early on in the early '80s, and we're listening to it quite a bit. So when we did I'm the Man, that was very much a reflection of, kind of the rap music we were listening to at that time. That song was written probably in like late '85 or early '86 or something, and with no expectation at all that was ever going to do anything. It was really just a big inside joke for us. We wrote goofy lyrics about the guys in the band and made fun of ourselves and played the Jewish folk song Hava Nagia in like a heavy metal version of it. And like, if you wrote that formula down on paper for hit song, I don't think that's what the formula for a hit would be. No. And yet it blew up for us, and our audience really loved it. And at the time, it became our first platinum album, and we were like, huh? Like, really? That's all we need to do? But it certainly opened our minds creatively after doing that, just thinking that, even though we're a quote-unquote thrash metal band, we weren't stuck in any kind of creative box. We could do whatever we want. And, that obviously opened the door for us to be able to Bring the Noise with Public Enemy years later.
So I'm a big guitar dude, and I always liked, the Madhouse video, and you guys with your Jackson guitars. What got you into Jackson guitars? Because every time I see a picture, you pretty much got a Jackson.
Yeah, I was, from the time I started being able to even afford to buy my own stuff, I used to hang out in New York City on 48th Street in Manhattan. That used to be where all the guitar shops were. So as a kid growing up, I would go down there and just go to the guitar stores and, drool over the stuff hanging on the walls. And I started working full time in 81, and on my lunch hour, I would go just grab a hot dog and then hang out in the guitar shops, and I started making friends with the guys that worked there, and I got into, that's where I discovered Charvels initially first. I was way into the Charvel guitars because they just seemed so metal. They were just the way they looked, and they were super simplistic. They looked like a Strat, but like a hot rodded version, a cooler version of a Strat. It had a humbucking pickup in it, and then you started seeing dudes in bands playing Charvels, and then out of that obviously came Jackson's, because Grover Jackson was one of the guys who started Charvel out in San Dimas, California, and then the first Jackson guitar was the Randy Rhoads. What do you call it?
Just the
named
Rhodes.
after the plane.
Oh, the Concorde.
Yeah, the Concorde. Sorry, I couldn't take brain fart for a second. But yeah, so that first Randy Rhoads, and he, all of a sudden you see him playing that guitar, and you're like, whoa, look at that! It's like a flying V, but it's not, and it's Randy Rhoads is sick, and it says Jackson on the headstock, and you're like, what's Jackson? And and then of course it blew up, just based on the fact that Randy Rhoads was playing it, and so yeah, that's how I got into it, and then the guitars started showing up at Sam Ash on 48th Street, and I ordered my first one. I ordered a Randy Rhoads model in 1982. I plunked down some hard-earned cash at deposit and ordered a custom-built USA Randy Rhoads, and it took about 9 months for it to finally get to New York, and it came, and the paint job was wrong, and I had to send it back.
Oh, jeez.
But still, even for the 20 minutes I played it in the shop before they shipped it back, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, and I got it back a month later, so it didn't take that much longer. But yeah, I was just I fell in love with that guitar. I still have it, that same 82 Rhodes, and it's been on every Anthrax record, and that started my love of. Obviously, I started becoming, once the band started happening, I became a Jackson endorser, and I've been playing them basically ever since.
Well, you say you still got that Jackson guitar. I mean, reading through the book, you had talked about you still have the first T-shirt and ticket. Was it from the Kiss concert?
I don't remember if I have my tickets from that show, but I have the shirt I bought, and I have the
tour program,
the program, the tour program thing. Remember when bands used to sell tour books?
Yeah.
I still have that in the T-shirt from December '77.
See, now that's with me, that was the same year that I went and first saw Kiss, and I both have those too. And Kiss has been a major influence on my life. Can you talk about how they influenced what you did? I mean, I know that they were the first big band that you really grabbed onto. Yeah,
they were the first band that I consider it was it was my music. Before that, everything I was listening to, other than Elton John, I was a big Elton John fan as well, on my own. But my parents also liked Elton John. They took me to see Elton John when I was a kid, and but everything else was my parents' stuff that they would play in the house, and it wasn't bad music. It was everything from Simon and Garfunkel to the Doobie Brothers to the band and Bob Dylan and stuff like that. But Kiss was the first thing that I got into that my parents wanted nothing to do with, and
me too.
And instantly the walls of my room were covered in Kiss posters, and it's all I would listen to, and obviously they were not into Kiss, and that's not the reason why I loved Kiss, but that's that was the first thing that really was my own music. I mean, of course, every kid's going to go through that.
But I remember the first time that I saw Anthrax. You guys opened for Kiss, and that was the first time I saw you do "I'm the Man," and I thought to myself, "What?" And I really didn't know. I really wasn't familiar with Anthrax at the time. The cargo shorts and the knot, and and all that. That was such a great look for you guys, and you guys have went so far to becoming, in my book, one of the top 3 thrash bands or metal bands of all time. When you started this all out, Scott, did you ever think that Anthrax would still be going into 2014?
Oh yeah, I knew from the start. It's all part of my master plan. Are you kidding me? No, I mean, when we put out Fistful of Metal in January '84, and if you happen to see at one of your own shows a kid wearing an Anthrax T-shirt, it was a big deal. Like that's, no, there's no way. I was never thinking back then that, what I'd be doing in 33 years or something like that. It was only a case of back then literally looking forward, what do we do tomorrow?
Exactly.
Are we still even going to be a band? Is anybody going to care? No idea. Obviously once things get going and then the band happens and things start to happen for you and it becomes a career, then of course all the hard work goes into just maintaining that. And then you could look forward a bit further and try and have some sort of a business plan, because it does become a business, and try and figure out, okay, what are the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years going to look like? But generally that means nothing. It's nothing much has changed with us. It's always a case of, week by week, month by month, year by year, and you just take it as it comes and you do your best.
Now you got some great Lemmy, got the great Lemmy story in there. You got any other Lemmy stories that you couldn't put in there?
I can't remember. I mean, obviously there's the one that comes, the comic book, thing of my drinking story with Lemmy. I'm sure there probably are. I can't remember. Do I tell the story about how I thought they were Mexican? I don't remember.
Oh,
if I tell that in the book.
Yeah. From the cover, you thought they were Mexican.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch. I just can't remember. What I tell and what I don't tell.
Yeah. Was it hard to sort out what you were going to put in it and what you were going to leave out?
It wasn't. I guess a little bit, yeah. As you actually, guys, could you hold on 1 minute?
Sure.
Hold on. Drive safe. I'll see you soon. It was kind of like when you get the first draft back, and then you get it all in context, and you get to read it, and I remember thinking like, oh, well, should we add this, or should we take out this, or does this make sense, or I feel like maybe I'm not really getting my point across here, but now, like, when I think about it now, because I've read the finished version, like the actual hardcover version, like when I first got it in my hands, I read it, and I really didn't remember. It was kind of hard to even remember going through revisions and what we were going to leave out and what we were going to put in, and although I have all my notes, so it's all there, but it's weird. Once it started to kind of coalesce and the narrative really started to work, it really didn't matter so much anymore. One of the hardest parts, surprisingly for me, besides obviously it is a lot of work to write a book, but the photos, because I'm like, when any kind of book, I like pictures.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to see stuff of, someone's history and past, if it's someone you've been a fan of and you get to see photos that you've never seen before, that's super exciting. And so, I knew I was going to have photos in the book, so I started going through the history of photos, and I think I put together like 250 pictures with captions and all this, and I send them all in to my editor, and he goes, "This is amazing. This is like a book all by itself, but we can only put in about 60 pictures." And I'm like, what? Like, how am I going to edit this down from 250 to 60? And that was actually like, I swear to God, I was like pulling my fingernails out for a week trying to trying to edit that. Like, I was like, well, I have to have this picture, and I have to have this picture, and how could I not have this picture? And I think we finally compromised, and I'm not sure what the final number was, but I think it was somewhere around 90 or 100 pictures. But, you know, they were like, we just can't do this. If we put all these photos in the book, your book's going to cost $50, you know, so because of all the added pages. And I was like, but like that to me might have been the hardest thing.
You know, one of the things I've checked out online lately, Scott, that I really wish I would have got to see was your spoken word tour, and now you've got a DVD coming out about that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the touring is not over. It's just a case of I get to do it, you know, when I can find a window of time to go do that. Obviously, between Anthrax, you know, my professional life, and then, you know, my family. If I'm not working with Anthrax, you know, I kind of like to be home, and then now all of a sudden I've got this talking thing going on, and so it's, you know, look, if I didn't have a family, I'd stay on the road all year, but I like to be home with my family, and so it's just a case of trying to find windows of time to, you know, be able to go out and do that, you know, a week at a time or something, and do some of those talking shows. But that was one of the reasons why I decided to document it and do the DVD, because it's not like it's something I can't just go out and do 100 dates and everybody gets to come see it. So I figured, well, I'll just do a DVD and people could see it that way.
Very cool. The last time I actually got to see you play out live, Scott, you were playing with Pearl in Rockford. Is Pearl doing anything?
She just finished the record. It's done, and we're kind of in the process of figuring out like how we're going to get it out there and release it, and just find the right home for it. But yes, she is. She's finished a great record, and hopefully next year that'll come out.
And go ahead.
Now, Volume 8, the thread is real. Your record company just died in the middle of releasing that. Any chance of getting that out anytime, or is that totally gone?
That's a really good question. You know, it's weird that you asked that, because a friend of mine runs a record store in Australia, and he just recently sent me this thing about it. You know, he said these people have been coming in and like buying Volume 8 and even willing to pay the $50 that it costs. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. How are they buying Volume 8? It doesn't. Yeah. It's not even being made anymore. And he sent me this link to this place that is distributing it. So I sent that into our management and all that, and they're checking it out right now to see who's even manufacturing copies of that to be able to sell it. So, because we don't own the rights to that one, you know, that kind of got lost in the shuffle when that label Ignition that we were on, they were a part of Tommy Boy at the time, and they lost their funding, and the whole thing folded. And the guys that owned that label, they retained the rights to that record, and we tried to get it back at some point, but it's like they just wanted a ridiculous amount of money. And we were like, well, why don't we just like do something, at least get it out there, so that, you know, don't you want to make money off of it?
Yeah.
You know, like put the record out in some way, shape, or form, just do a distribution deal. But we're actually kind of trying to figure out how to move forward and get that record back out there, because it is like a lost album.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I was real excited to see the other day, Scott, is you guys are coming back out on tour with Volbeat and Crowbot in 2015, and you're going to be in our neck of the woods. I just can't. I think this is just going to be a great tour.
So do we, man. We're obviously, I say this, it's the most incestuous tour we've ever been on.
Yeah, really.
We're really close with those guys. We've been friends for a long time, and then obviously the relationship, you know, with Rob, and you know, because he's one of my best friends, and he's in Volbeat now after being in Anthrax for whatever it was, 12 years. Yeah, I mean, you know, we just get along really well. We're all really good friends, and we've had amazing times hanging out over the years, and it's just amazing to see, not necessarily like overnight success of that band, because they've been around for a while and working really hard, but you know, it's just cool to see that people in the States are embracing it as well. It's not just, you know, a lot of the times bands like that, it'll be massive in Europe, but nobody will pay attention here, and it's just really cool to see that this little band from Denmark is actually blowing up in the United States, and you know, we're just really excited that they thought it would be a cool idea to put together this package. And we couldn't be more excited about it, because it's, you know, it's always fun going out and playing shows, but when you get to like go out for 6 weeks with dudes that are actually your friends and you look forward to hanging out with every night, it just makes it even more fun.
So my favorite song off of worship music is The Devil You Know. I was wondering if you think maybe that song could have benefited from adding some cowbell.
Why, is there no cowbell in it?
No, there's no cowbell in it.
It must have got lost in the mix.
When I listen to it, I sit here and beat a cowbell to it, and it rocks. It takes it to a whole nother level.
Every song would benefit from cowbell.
Well, Scott, we appreciate your time. You know what? I think this book is one of the best autobiographies I've read in a long time.
For sure.
I would recommend it to anybody. We're so looking forward to seeing Anthrax back out on the road and
hearing a new album.
Hearing a new album, yeah.
Soon. We're still writing. We're still working at it. We've got a ton of material that we love, and we should be in the studio pretty soon. I would think we're not too far off from actually getting in and starting to record it. So. I can't wait, dude. I mean, trust me, I can't wait to play new Anthrax too, or hear it.
All right, well, we're going to get on out of here with one of worship music. This one's called In the End. Scotty, and it has been a pleasure to have you on Rock and Metal Revival.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
To catch the whole show of Rock and Metal Revival, all you have to do is check it out on these affiliates. Mega Rock Radio's on Saturdays from 11 a.m. Eastern Time, on Rock 101 KLOL on Saturdays 11 p.m. Eastern, on Z-Rock 106.9 KKZR Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Uncontrolled Noise Tuesdays at 1 a.m., Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on uncontrollednoise.com. And make sure that you leave them a message and tell them that you found Rock and Metal Revival on their stations. Enjoy this edition of Rock and Metal Revival.